Today I'd like to talk to you about driving the special purpose bus. Let's talk about the physics of the special purpose bus. There's many physical, environmental, and human factors that must be examined in order to understand the complexities of driving a multi-purpose van or special purpose bus. What makes them different? Well, as you can see in the photograph, they're taller, they're longer, they have stiffer suspension systems, they don't corner as well, they have longer stopping distances, there's view obstructions all around the vehicle. It takes a special person to drive the special bus. As you notice in the van picture, we have the same problem. We can't see out the back. We have small tires and tall vehicles. We have heavy weights. All of these require special driving considerations. They're generally longer than passenger vehicles. They have a larger turning radius. They're heavier. The 15-passenger van will weigh in excess of 6,000 pounds when empty. And the multi-purpose special purpose bus will weigh in excess of 12,000 pounds empty. They're noisy due to the increased number of passengers, all of which becomes a distraction for you as a driver. The movement of people behind you can be very distracting and can affect your vision because the movement in your peripheral vision will detract from your driving task. They have a slower acceleration and they're longer, so it takes them more time to clear an intersection. Be cognizant of that. And finally, they take a lot longer to stop because they are heavier. You know, many times a driver will take the same route multiple times per day, and that leads to complacency and inattentiveness. It doesn't matter whether you've made that same 6-block trip once today or 6 times today. Focus on the driving task. Do not become distracted. Do not become lackadaisical. You know, sometimes the driver may be older, and an older driver needs to realize that they will have a slower perception and response time than a younger driver. Sometimes older drivers do not see as well at night, and so they need to be extra cautious during nighttime driving activities. Slow down, increase your following distance. Make sure you've had the proper rest before you come to work that day. I pointed out some things on this particular slide just to highlight what we've already talked about. A tall vehicle that's top heavy, large blind spots around the door moldings, stiffer tires that make cornering difficult, increased width, increased length, and mirrors that we have to use to be able to see to the sides because of people inside the vehicle and view obstructions. As you can see in this photo, the van is going to be the same way. The same way. We've got rear view mirrors that are ineffective. We have to rely on our side mirrors. We've got a tall vehicle that's unstable during tight turning. All these things make it more incumbent upon you to pay special attention when you drive that vehicle. Look at this view obstruction. People don't realize that, but when you look at this particular photograph, you can see that the whole right side of the vehicle is basically fiberglass. If you look toward the right side of this photograph, think about a bicycle coming down the sidewalk. Think about a motorcycle coming down the street. Think about a jogger or a pedestrian. There'd be no way that you could see those 4 types of people or individuals from the right side based on the view obstruction. So open the door. Make sure you lean forward. Make sure you lean back. Make sure you look twice before you pull out. Keep your front dash uncluttered and keep your window clean. I'm sure most of you are laughing at this picture, but how would you like to try to drive in bright sunlight with a windshield that looked like that? You notice the mirror, the visor's down, the mirror's in the way. We've got white pieces of paper on the dash that reflect light up on the inside of the window and cut down on our visibility. It'd be terrible to drive this vehicle in the bright sunshine. A little Windex or glass cleaner would have gone a long way. Be sure to do your pre-trip inspection and check those windows. Are they clean inside and out? If you don't have clean windshield and clean headlamps, the light gets refracted due to bugs and oil and dust and dirt, and it makes your driving ability decrease. Make sure you wash the windshield with clean water and paper towels or squeegees. Don't forget the headlights and the tail lights. Are your tires properly inflated? Underinflated tires can lead to hydroplaning, loss of control, and in certain cases, the wheel can actually come loose from the rim and cause a rollover. So make sure your tires are properly inflated. This can have significant consequences during turns, evasive maneuvers, or heavy braking. Lower air pressure can contribute to hydroplaning on wet roadways. And remember that cold weather can cause air pressures to drop in tires, so your tire pressure check should be a daily part of your pre-trip inspection. Do all your lights work? Your headlights on high and low beams, your turn signals, your brake lights, your fog lights if it's equipped. These should be checked daily before using the vehicle. Use headlamps whenever the vehicle is in motion. It can reduce the likelihood of collision. The Canadian authorities found that once they instituted daytime running lights, they had a 32% reduction in daytime auto crashes in the country. Pretty significant. Well worth turning the switch on. Perception reaction time. Let's talk about what that is. It's your brain's ability to see and recognize an object. That's called perception. I see something in the road. I recognize that something as a deer. I have perceived it. Reaction. That's the brain's ability to cause muscle movement in response to a perceived stimuli. Reaction. A fancy way of saying, I see the deer in the road, I know I need to do something about it, so I take my foot from the accelerator pedal and put it on the brake pedal and begin to apply pressure. Or I begin to turn the steering wheel. That's reaction. Why is all this important to you? It's important because you're a human being and you're limited in this short amount of time that you can accomplish a task. For instance, most people take between 1 and 3 seconds on average during daylight hours to perceive and react to something in the roadway. The average is about 1.5 seconds. Now, while you're seeing and reacting, your vehicle, of course, is still moving down the roadway. Highly trained drivers can get under 1 second, but for our purposes today, we're going to stay with 1.5 second perception response time. Sudden and unexpected occurrences, that can increase that to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. Use of text or cell phone can really increase your time. Texting can add up to 3 seconds to your perception reaction time. If you text and drive, it's not a matter of if you have a crash, it's a matter of when you have it and how bad it will be. Don't text and drive. Sleep, food, alcohol, mental state, distractions, all those things can affect your perception reaction time. You're driving a special purpose van. You're driving a 15-passenger van. You have precious cargo on board. Pay attention to the driving task. You should not be thinking about anything else but your driving. Let's convert some of what we've talked about into how far it will take you to stop. Let's say, for example, you're going 55 miles an hour. If you're going 55 miles per hour, you're going about 80 feet per second. So it would take you about 3 seconds to go the distance of a football field, 3.5 seconds, something like that. Every second your vehicle travels 80 feet. It takes you 1.5 seconds to perceive a threat in front of you and react to it. In that 1.5 seconds, at 55 miles per hour, your vehicle travels 120 feet, 1/3 the distance of a football field. The distance needed to slide to a stop using maximum braking at 55 miles an hour on a flat, dry asphalt surface, one of these big heavy vans or special purpose vehicles, is about 168 feet. Now we have to add our perception and reaction time to that. So 168 plus 120 means that it will take you about 288 feet to stop your van or special purpose bus at 55 miles an hour on a flat, dry roadway. Our stopping distance will increase substantially in the rain. Our perception and reaction distance will still probably be the same. At 55 miles an hour, it takes us 1.5 seconds to perceive a deer in the roadway and decide we need to brake to avoid it. Our vehicle's now traveled 120 feet since we initially saw the deer. We begin to brake and slide to a stop. The total stopping distance on wet roadways with one of these big heavy vans is going to be about 288 feet. So if we add the two together, our total stopping distance at 55 miles per hour in the rain is about 408 feet, over the length of a football field. Snow or ice, of course, is much longer. You could get stopping distances in the neighborhood of 500, 600, 700, 800 feet under the proper conditions when snow and ice was a factor. The distance is greater because the wet roads make the brakes less efficient as they try to stick the tires to the surface of the road. These numbers that I'm giving you are not something that I made up. These things are based on physics. And it doesn't matter whether you're the best bus driver in the city. It doesn't matter if you're the best bus driver in the United States of America. You can't change the physics. So it's going to take you this long to stop that type of vehicle under those circumstances. It has nothing to do with your driving ability. It's all about physics. Increase your following distances. Try to stay 2 to 3 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. You know, at 35 miles an hour, you're traveling about 50 feet per second. This means you should have about 100 to 150 feet of space between you and the vehicle in front of you. Well, you say, how do you come up with that number? How do you judge that distance? Well, it's pretty easy. Use the road to help you determine that spacing. Generally, the white hash marks on the road are 10 feet long, and there's generally 20 feet between them. So 4 hash marks would be about 100 feet. That would sort of give you an idea about judging that closing distance. If you drive a vehicle with anti-lock brakes, know how to use them. Generally, continuous steady pressure is the way to apply anti-lock brakes. Remember that anti-lock brakes, you still have steering control because your wheel never totally locks up. There's a computer system that's attached to the hub of the wheel that keeps that vehicle from locking those tires up, so they're still turning, although slower than normal when you do maximum braking. Therefore, you have steering control. Whatever you do, don't pump the brakes. When you pump anti-lock brakes, you render them ineffective. We need to talk for a minute about visibility issues. Rain, snow, fog, all those particles cause light to scatter, and it becomes difficult to see through it. So reduce your speed. Increase your following distance. Remember that wet or slick roadways take you much longer to stop. Don't forget about tunnel vision. When you're stationary, the human eyes can see about 195 degrees. However, at 55 miles per hour, your field of vision increases to about 100 degrees, and it gets continually narrower and narrower as the speed increases. It's not something that you can really do anything about. It's just the way our eyes work. So remember, as you drive at those highway speeds, you don't take in as much of the space in front of you as you do when you're sitting still. So keep your head on a swivel. Look left, look right. Check the intersection twice before you enter it. Continually scan to the sides and front, looking 10 to 12 seconds ahead of you so that you have time and distance to react to any emergency. As far as nighttime visibility goes, you can only see as far as your headlamps reflect light onto an object and back into your eye. So slow down and increase your following distances. Don't outrun your headlights. The federal government mandates that your low beams will get out to about 250 feet, and your high beams can reflect out to an object about 350 feet away. However, those numbers are somewhat predicated on the type of object and its color. Red, black, blue are all 3 colors that are hard for the eye to see at night. Pedestrians wearing those colors are at an increased risk of being struck by your vehicle as you drive down the roadway. Don't forget about things in your car. I call it stuff. Things on your mirror, your dash, your visors. Keep these areas clean and free of papers and trash and debris. Other people are going to be in your van with you, obviously, but with passengers behind you, you must use your mirrors. So use them and use them often. And remember about the blockages to the side because of the way the frames of these special purpose buses are made. The large fiberglass frame creates huge blind spots to your right. Consider opening your door and looking twice before you enter into an intersection of traffic. If you have adjustable mirrors on your van or your special purpose bus, they're probably not adjusted properly. So what I'd like you to do is lean your head to the driver's side window and adjust that driver's side mirror till you can barely see the back corner of the van on the left side. Lean over to your right about 30 degrees and adjust your passenger side mirror to where you can barely see the back corner of the van. If you have a center view mirror that has any visibility, adjust it as best you can. Now you have your mirrors adjusted properly so that there's no blind spots as people come up along the sides of you. They'll be in either the left mirror or the right mirror until they get up to you, at which time your peripheral vision will take over and you'll see that person. Consider the installation of a convex mirror on the left mirror. It will definitely increase your visibility. Use turn signals and look twice before changing lanes. Avoid lane hopping. Changing lanes multiple times when unnecessary only increases your chances of being involved in a collision. Do not engage in lengthy conversations with passengers. It will only distract you and make your already tough driving task even more difficult. Remember, when it comes to railroad crossings, the train always has the right of way. There are no exceptions. It takes a train that's carrying 100 cars at 35 miles per hour over a mile to stop. A train doesn't have a steering wheel. It can't turn left or right to avoid you. So the train always has the right of way. Remember that there may not be a horn or bell at the gate crossing based on city ordinance or location. Remember that single signal lights may not be operational. Just because a light's not flashing does not mean a train is not coming. Judging the speed of an approaching train is very, very difficult due to their large size and the angle from which they usually approach. Many people have met their death thinking the train was many, many feet away, only to cross the tracks and be struck. Beware of multiple tracks, and do not drive around a malfunctioning gate for any reason. It would be much better to take an alternate route, even if it takes longer to get your safe cargo there safely. Wear your seatbelt. Seatbelts are a must, and they must be properly used. They should be tight and low on your pelvis. Never buckle behind you to defeat the supplemental restraint system. If seat belts are provided in the vehicle that you're driving, make sure everyone is properly buckled before you place the van in motion. And if you're driving a special purpose bus, remember that wheelchairs should generally be loaded facing outward. This is based on Ricon manufacturing suggestions. Driving a special purpose van is a very, very unique and daunting task. Stay focused. Don't get distracted. Don't text. Use your seatbelt. Engage in pre-trip activities and be safe out there. Thank you.